This morning's shock inflation figures meant Keir Starmer only had one option, asking about the economy, and he went big on the blame game.
He knows very well the cause of the mortgage catastrophe. 13 years of economic failure and a Tory kamikaze budget which crashed the economy and put mortgages through the roof.
The Labour leader also seemed to have a new three-word attack line.
Will the Prime Minister tell us how much the Tory mortgage penalty is going to cost the average homeowner?
I'm told you'll hear a lot more of that in the next 12 months. Sir Keir also snuck in a mention of Selby in Yorkshire, location of a key by-election next month. And in response, Rishi Sunak's strategy was to argue economic challenges are evident internationally.
Perhaps the Honourable Gentleman could explain why interest rates are at similar levels in the United States, in Canada, in Australia and New Zealand. But in contrast, what do we hear from the Honourable Gentleman? He wants to borrow an extra £28 billion a year. That would make the situation worse. He wants to ban new supplies of energy from the North Sea. That would make the situation worse.
Now, Keir Starmer's advisers say it was a deliberate choice to focus on the issue concerning voters, the cost of living crisis and rising mortgage rates, and not deal with the soap opera of Boris Johnson and the Privileges Committee. But the Labour leader still managed to slip in the odd dig.
Mr Speaker, I realise the Prime Minister spent all week saying he doesn't want to influence anyone or anything. It was certainly keeping to that with his answer. Mr Speaker, I appreciate the Prime Minister has a keen interest in the mortgage market in California, but I'm talking about mortgage holders here. I'm sure from the vantage point of his helicopter, everything might look fine, but that's not the lived experience of those on the ground.
All that seemed to leave the Prime Minister looking a little irritable.
No amount of personal attacks and petty point scoring can disguise the fact that the Honourable Gentleman does not have a plan for this country, Mr Speaker.
Now, personal attacks and petty point scoring may not be the point of PMQs, but they're always a regular feature. And as Keir Starmer didn't major on Boris Johnson, the SNP's Westminster leader, as well as Labour backbenchers, filled that void.
Given the dire economic reality of today, is it not now clear that he's taken his honesty lessons from Boris Johnson?
Does the Prime Minister believe that the reward for being a lawbreaker should be to be made a lawmaker?
So just to recap, during this Parliament we've had one Tory Prime Minister who turned out to be a proven liar, a second Tory Prime Minister who was outlasted by a lettuce. After this week's pathetic no-show by the Prime Minister, what one word would he use to describe himself? Might it be weak?
What's weak is the party opposite being unable to stand up, is being able to stand up to the people who fund them and stand behind hard-working families in this country.
Rishi Sunak's time as Chancellor during the pandemic and his supposed mastery of economic issues was, and remains, a key selling point of his leadership. And he doesn't seem to enjoy all of that now being a target for opposition parties. Whatever the truth of the causes of both the cost of living crisis and the mortgage rates increase, Labour is unlikely to let up with its attacks. And as homeowners increasingly feel the bite, that may prove painful for the PM.